Hi, my name's Katie and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to share 5 tips for keeping a low maintenance, stress-free tank. This is my 6-foot African Cichlid tank, which is about 650 litres. And for maintenance, all I do is a weekly water change, which takes me no more than 35 minutes to do. For me, that suits my need, but when I talk about low maintenance, the main thing that I'm referring to is that the fish are healthy and they're not getting sick, that the tank is stable and consistent, it doesn't require you to be intervening all of the time, and most importantly, you're feeling stress-free as well and you're not worrying about it all of the time. Hopefully you find this video helpful. If you do, I would love for you to give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more content like this. So tip number 1 is getting the right fish for your tank. There's 2 main things to think about. How hardy are the fish that you're getting, which means how prone are they to getting stressed and to getting sick, and how many do you actually need for your tank. When it comes to hardiness, there's certain fish, for example discus, that are really beautiful, but they're a type of fish that gets very skittish. They get stressed out easily from fast movements, and they also come from an area in the Amazon where the quality of the water is very high because there's so much rain going through there all of the time. So if you keep them in a fish tank, sometimes it can be difficult to actually meet their needs. Plus, because they get stressed easily, they're more prone to illness. You also have some types of fish, like ornamental fish, that have been bred to produce certain qualities for their appearance. But what can happen with these fish is that because of the changes to their body from the breeding to produce certain aesthetic results, sometimes they have issues with their swim bladder. So if you're looking for a hardy fish, you want to stay away from things that are kind of bred to be more ornamental, and consider how confident the type of fish is that you're getting. The other thing you want to consider is how many fish you're going to need for your aquarium. If you get a type of fish that likes to school, then you're going to need to get more to put in your fish tank. And more fish equals more waste being produced in the fish tank, which means that you're going to have to keep up with maintenance more often. So tip 2 is either get low light, easy to care for plants or opt for no plants at all. Examples of low light plants are things like anubias. The benefit of a plant like this is that it also grows on rocks or on logs, and it doesn't need a lot of nutrients to be healthy and to grow. So you're not going to have to deal as much with actually dosing the tank with fertilizers, and it's also a low light plant. So you just need an entry level light. You don't need much at all to be able to have it grow successfully in your tank. The benefits of having plants is that the more plants that you have, the less that you're going to need to do water changes. So if you really don't like water changes, then plants might be something that's for you. But I'm also going to talk in my next tip about water changes and making that as easy as possible. The other option that you have is to go absolutely no plants, because the drawback with plants is that it can be sometimes difficult to balance the amount of nutrients and light that you have in your tank, and sometimes you end up in a bit of a battle with algae. If you don't like having to take time to be able to balance things, and you don't like dealing with plants at all, then you might opt for getting a type of fish that doesn't like to have plants. For example, African Cichlids don't necessarily not like plants, but they don't need them because where they come from in the wild, there is minimal plants. It's mostly rocks. And if you put plants in the tank, they tend to eat them, and the plants don't really thrive too well because the pH is so high that they live in. Tip number 3 is make water changes as simple and easy as possible. For this, a garden hose and a pump is going to be your best friend, as well as having either an outdoor area that you can remove your water from your tank into, or a sink close by, and a hose to be able to put water straight back into your tank from a tap. If you're using buckets and you have a big tank, you're probably going to find it's really hard to keep on top of water changes, and you might even end up avoid doing them because it's just too much effort. So if you can simplify this from the start, it's going to make your life so much easier, and it's going to make maintaining a tank to be a piece of cake, and you're more likely to end up with healthier fish as well. This leads me to tip number 4, which is bigger is better. The biggest size tank that you can get is what I recommend. I always like to go for 6-foot tanks. I've always gone back to them because I just find that they can do most things. They can fit most types of fish in them, and they're pretty consistent with the water parameters, even if you have a large amount of fish in there. So if you can get a big tank, then go for it. It's going to make your life easier because the water is going to be more stable that's in your tank. You're less likely to have shifts in that water chemistry that stress out your fish, and you will be able to go longer between water changes depending on how many fish you have in your tank. If you can't get a big tank and you have to go for a small tank, then I recommend having a planted tank in that case, because the plants are just going to help to keep the quality of the water better. And I also recommend really understocking your tank. So don't get too many fish if you've got a small volume of water, because you're going to find that the water can get pretty bad pretty quickly. And with a small tank, if you do too many water changes, sometimes that can actually impact it negatively too. So for small tanks or nano tanks, I recommend getting something that you can actually leave for quite a long time. And you'll be able to achieve that by having plenty of plants in your tank and not too many fish. Or you might even just choose to have something like one betta fish or just some shrimp in a nano tank like that, and have it be super low maintenance with minimal water changes needed. Now lastly, tip number 5 is automate everything that you can. So that goes back to water changes, but then also I recommend getting either Bluetooth lighting if you can, or get a timer for your lights. If you've got a timer on your lights, then you're not going to have to worry about turning the lights on and off every single day. What happens is, if you forget to turn your lights off, then you risk having an excess of algae grow in your tank. Your fish are going to get stressed out by that because of the unpredictability. Or if you don't remember to turn your lights on, then you're going to have similar issues where you'll find that your plants don't thrive as well as they could, and your fish also aren't going to like that. So if you can automate things, there's less room for human error, and it's just going to make your life less, it's going to make it hassle-free. There's less things that you need to remember, and it's also going to ensure that your plants and your fish are stress-free. I hope that you found these tips to be useful. The simple formula that you can use for this is a large water volume with less fish, more plants, and not too much feeding is going to leave you with something that is the lowest maintenance tank that you can possibly have. Because when we feed our fish, it produces waste. The amount of fish we have will cause more waste to be produced. And if we have plants, they will take up some of the nutrients and the nitrates that are in the water, which keeps the water cleaner for longer. And the larger volume of water we have, the more consistent our water parameters are, the more stable our tank generally is, and the happier our fish are. And the longer that they can live in that water for before there ends up being an excess of waste. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you've got any other tips that I didn't mention in here, drop them down in the comments too. I post videos on this channel at least once per week, and my videos are mostly around African cichlids, but I also talk a lot about just fish keeping in general. So if you're interested in hearing more of this content, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell notification button to get notified every time I upload a new video. If you found this video helpful, as always, please give it a like, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye!